In June, I have a show in Dalton, Georgia at the Creative Arts Guild. I've been working on finishing up a standing wool piece for that show. This is the first standing wool piece I've made since the flood. 2 standing wool pieces were spared because they were either at home or in another show, so this will round out a trio of large pieces for my upcoming show. I started this piece that you're looking at here back in 2023, but I put it down while I was preparing to move cross country from Portland, Oregon to Asheville. I decided it was finally time to pick it back up. It was a lot easier to finish a piece than it was to start one from scratch. Post flood, it's been pretty difficult to get myself to make work again because there is so much emotion built in with it. So, having a piece that had already been started that I didn't have to think about the very beginnings of and could just pick up where I left off was really freeing in this process. Right now, I'm adding some teardrop shapes into this piece. I named this piece Garden because of the shades of green and the vibrance of it. In the backyard of my new house, we have these beautiful pink roses that bloomed not too long after we moved in. And I love seeing new things come when over the winter it was completely barren. And that was definitely something that was on my mind while I was starting to make work again after losing almost all of my pieces to a natural disaster. It was really hard to feel like I wanted to make things because I'd lost so much, but I knew that this show was coming up. I knew that I wanted to want to work again. And so looking at a piece that already had been started and being able to go from there really helped me get back into the rhythm of things again, especially because some of the pieces that I lost that were standing wool pieces, which is this technique that you see here, were really emotionally important to me and really special, and some of the losses that hit me the hardest in their own way. Losing all of my work was hard, but there were some specific pieces that I felt the loss of more deeply than others, and there were a few standing wool pieces that were definitely like that. As I've gotten into my standing wool work more, I have definitely started to allow myself to try out new techniques. Here you can see I'm sewing through the back. I have started to do that a lot more as I've been exploring my work and improving it, honestly. Every year I can tell that my work gets better and better, and it's such a cool thing to see. Adding fringe was a huge step forward for me in my pieces. I started doing this in 2023 before my solo show back in Portland, and figuring out how to add fringe and how to add those textural layers into a work like this was such an exciting prospect. I really loved that this opened up a whole new world of texture in those pieces for me. So I wrapped the pieces or wrapped the yarn around some sort of armature. This was a frame, and sew them down to a piece of felt. And then I sew the felt in to the piece, just like I sew all of the felt in. There's actually a tutorial on this from, I think, about a year ago or so. So if you ever wanted to learn that, here on Patreon, we already have that option. Then, yeah, you can see it's just about done here. Trimming the fringe is such a satisfying part of the process because it really is one of the last things that I do. And it gives me an option to really refine the footprint that a piece is going to have on the wall when it's finished. I opted to do bright pink as the backing fabric for this piece because it has those pops of pink on the front. I thought that that was just such a fun surprise to have bright pink on the back as well. Very few people ever see the backs of these pieces. This is a process that I do to make sure that the back is really clean and professional and ready for the gallery. So often, only the person who owns the piece, the curator, myself, and anyone who sees a video of it really gets to enjoy the pop of color at the back of a piece that I've made. But I like to have some fun with it because it is a really important part of my own process to make sure that my work feels really finished and clean and professional, and then it also can be a fun little nod to something that I've been thinking about during the process, like those bright pink roses from my yard. If you've seen the sticker already for this month, I did a yellow orange chanterelle inspired sticker. I drew that one on my iPad. I love the way it came out. I immediately put one on my laptop because I was just absolutely obsessed with it. And I have been really interested in this style of shape of mushroom for a while because it is one of the harder ones to really get right in wool. So needle felting this bell shape where it's thin at the bottom and then it sprays out at the top is really difficult to do in wool just because of the balance of it. And I've been iterating on it for a while. And so I just can't stop painting it as well because this color is so vibrant. It feels like summer and sunshine and warmth to me. I've also been playing with gouache for the first time. I usually use watercolor or acrylic, primarily watercolor. Watercolor is my favorite sketching medium, but I decided that I would try gouache for the first time. What I'm using here is acrylic gouache, which I discovered I do not like. It is neither acrylic nor is it watercolor, and I feel pretty comfortable with both of those paints. And this was somehow in between in a way that I personally found frustrating to work with. So I'm going to try watercolor gouache next, and I think I will be better friends with it. But that's a huge part of the process that I feel like I don't share as much, is that I do experiment. I do use other mediums primarily for idea generation and thinking through my ideas, but I don't always like them. So this is a task that I needed to add in to this month because, as those of you who are in the US have heard, there have been tariffs abounding. It's been a huge mess. And so getting my felting needles from my regular supplier was not as great of an option this month. And my regular felting needle supplier, they come already dipped in colors. That way you can tell what size needle you're using. And since I had to go somewhere else for my felting needles, they did not come pre-color coded. And having my felting needles color coded for my kits is so important to me. So that way you know exactly what needle you're getting. And in my kits, I explain like you should use this felting needle in this situation and this one in this situation. And if you can't tell them apart, it's really hard to take that advice to heart. And so this month I spent some time, hi Hazel, spray painting them so that way you could tell immediately which ones were which. So I shook them out into my backyard and gave them a good little spritz. As I mentioned earlier, I have a show coming up. It opens next week. I'm very excited about it, but I also have been making a ton of work for it because it's a show. I want it to be full of work. And so this was one last piece that I squeaked in at the end of the month because I thought, you know, I might as well just make one more, which is not my most healthy habit, but I did make it and finish it. So, it worked out. The show is going to happen. We're very excited about it. It opens on June 6th in Dalton, Georgia. And I don't actually recommend rushing at the end, but sometimes you have to. Here is the finished piece. Ta-da! And I hope you all enjoyed this new style of vlog. I ended up doing about a week in my life behind the scenes because there was a lot of prep that needed to happen for my show. And I'll see you guys soon. All right, bye.